In my last video, I spoke about how no-code and low-code is changing the game in web development. But what is no-code, low-code exactly? Well, let's get into it. I think one of the better ways to explain this is to first look at what a normal developer would do to build a website or attack a project at work versus what a low-code, no-code developer would do. So let's start with what a developer would do. Typically, when a developer works on a website, you work in the design with the designer, which is usually prepared beforehand, right? I mean, depending if you're front end or back end, this is primarily front end. Then once you learn what kind of website you need to build as a front end developer or maybe back end, then you need to decide which technologies are needed to build the website. And depending on how complicated the website is, will determine what tech you actually use. For example, let's just say you need to build a static landing page. Well, if it's a normal static landing page, you don't need React, JavaScript, for the most part. You don't need anything crazy or fancy. It's a simple website, so maybe all you need is Bootstrap, which could work perfectly fine. Maybe you need a bit more customability with CSS. So rather than Bootstrap, you might want to use Tailwind CSS instead. Well, I think another question to ask is, how much do you need to also manipulate the DOM? If not much, if any JavaScript is required, maybe just vanilla JavaScript. But if it's a full out web application, AI application, you might need to consider using React JavaScript, using Vercel. And for the backend, speaking of Vercel, let's talk about the backend. Where do you store your data when you're thinking about this as a developer? Well, I think that depends. Do you need an analytical database like a warehouse such as Snowflake or a transactional database like Postgres? What if you need something that does both? Maybe go with TidyB, which is a hybrid version of both. We haven't even discussed observability and how to move all your data from different sources to one different location, one different database. That is the kind of stuff that a developer has to think about. Now, how does this change the game with no code and low code development? Well, number one, it's no longer required to know as many technologies as a developer. You see, we get paid well because of all the technologies we have learned and experienced, pretty much everything we've accumulated over time to build these applications as fast as well as possible. But when it comes to no code development, you don't need to know HTML, CSS well. You don't need to know JavaScript well. You don't need to know PHP. You don't need to know Python or how to send queries to a database via API calls or SQL because these platforms do it for you. So all you simply need to do as a no-code, low-code developer is not learn all these different technologies, it's just drag and drop for the most part. Now, if you use something like Wix Studio, if you know a little bit of programming, you do have the ability to fully customize your website on top of the drag and drop feature. Like, let's say you want to make additional changes on CSS. If there's a little bit too many limitations for you, do a little bit of custom CSS there, do a little bit of JavaScript if you need to. But just to clarify more on the difference between no code and low code, let's go over the same list as I just went over for front-end developers, what a dev would do, but now what someone with zero coding experience, zero professional database backend experience, what would they do? Well, let's go over the same thing. You're going to build a static landing page. Well, a no-code platform, to be honest, for the most part, could be better than building it from scratch. A no-code platform will allow you to use one of these hundreds of templates that exist in a no-code, low-code platform. Well, what if you don't like the templates? They give you the ability to fully customize access to your website however you want. Well, how much do you need to manipulate the DOM? That can determine things too. Maybe you need an actual developer. No, zero JavaScript is needed. You can change your website based on the width of the browser, wherever you like, with their built-in mobile-friendly features. Well, what about the backend? You need to determine between whether you need a transactional or analytical database. For the most part, it's usually just transactional, depending on the product that you're building. But with these no-code platforms, you can easily integrate two external databases with zero knowledge. For example, let's say you primarily need a transactional database. Sure, use Postgres or MySQL. You need something more analytical, go with Google Cloud or BigQuery, right? Or again, Snowflake. The thing that no-code and low-code platforms are doing now allow regular people like you and me to do tech-related things with zero tech experience, to build things that before only professionals have been able to do, but now we can do. What only programmers have been able to do over the last 20 plus years, now for the most part, we can do. What is no-code? What is low-code? It's allowing normal people to be developers without needing to be an actual developer.